No, I'm good. No, the game is lagging. I didn't even see him. I could have tapped him in the head with the new pump. Hey, Space.
Come on, tell him. Just tell him what he wants to do. He already what? Hey, February. Yeah, whatever. No, you can get
Hold down here so I fucking get it. Alright, Mike, y'all get off the game. There is pee down there. Pee down there underneath that door soon, on the other side as soon as you walk in. Why are you ordering stuff offline? Why are you getting still off PayPal? So you didn't order a PayPal credit card? Jared, it's not gonna come, nothing's not gonna come to the house with your name on it.
I need to order my PayPal.
Jericho,
I need to go to Social Security number to order.
you don't need a Social Security to order it.
What you do?
So it's automatically the stuff gets sent to nobody else. Got stuff getting sent here. Me and your mom got shit on credit. We don't get PayPal cards sent to the house.
Oh, what's up?
Why smell like her? Why do it smell like her? Mama, we don't know.
Where are we going?
What does it say smell like me? You said it smell like her.
I wanna,
As soon as I walk from down here up here
he have?
What you get mad for?
Yeah, I could play a duo real quick. Y'all can play a duo real quick. I gotta finish cleaning up.
What else? You said what? Oh no, I'm still on stage 1 because you gotta get a lot of XP. Somebody on their team got the you know, the sword. What the hell? You don't remember me? Oh yeah, the racist what? Dude. You're racist, nigga. I didn't do anything. I just said it. I just said what was true. But no, why did he leave though? If he knows, no. Oh, I wouldn't leave if somebody called me racist. But anyway, he was getting annoying. You can't. Wasn't he getting annoying though? Man, he was aggravating me at Carlos, man. You don't? Ooh, a deagle. I'm gonna have to take that deagle. I'ma have to take that deagle. I have to take that deal. You're being so gay. You always just say hey. I'm the only one in our squad that got shield. That's messed up. I hate people that leave and join. I hate people that join and leave the party. But I'm the highest. I got a flirt right here. There's somebody standing in the air. You see him? He's over here. He's on our team. You see him, right? He's right here. You know, he just killed himself. Hey, get back my deagle, you little bastard. You better drop it. Drop my deagle. No, you better drop my... He wasn't even gonna take it. I don't got a scar. You know I can't get no scar from around here. I'm gonna go where the action at. Is this still one more? I got 4. I feel like getting another jump. Oh my goodness, dude. The dude with the sword is here.
I'm finna join. Where y'all at? I went straight right past your name, right past his name. I'm joined.
Hey, what the frick?
Two people joined. Who is Hawk King?
What? How? This dude was the aimbot. What the heck?
Finna get a red knight account, babe.
Did you just take my kill?
I'm trying to get that ultra. Shimmer and shine. Hit it. I'm watching the movie again. They gonna add the TrickShot back.
Hey, I'm about to go where the icy part is. Bro, I'm on 1 health right now.
They in the room.
What the heck, bro?
The skin I really want is the red-nosed raider. The red-nosed raider. I want the red-nosed raider. Bro.
Who was that dude from right there, you bastard?
How many kills y'all got all together?
16.
No, like all the teams all together?
Yes.
How much the other team got?
16.
I'm finna buy tiers.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Oh yeah, I'm finna cook something. I really could play a team rumble. I bet I can be past y'all. I'm straight a try hard for life. Everybody know I'm gonna try hard. I've been trying hard since day 2.
Bro, guess what? When I first started season 7, like playing, bro, I just ran into a whole lot of news and get a whole lot of kills.
Now I ran in a whole bunch of tryhards.
Not right now, but like, dude, come on here.
I'm finna play duo with this dude. I'm finna play duo with Hawk. Tell us when y'all finish. If If you make him start whining,
How did he hit me?
he smell like pee.
On what? On the skin I got on? On the skin I got on?
That's why the downstairs thing, because of him.
You said he wanted what?
I said that's why downstairs, when they said
Stop it.
the laundry room.
He did that?
Yes, he did that.
Oh my goodness, bro. Guess what? I hit somebody from 228 miles away.
Now.
He been bad.
That's messed up. I played so much
Why
good.
you asking me? I'm not supposed to know. Where you trying to go, Hawk? Yeah.
This dude stole my freaking... For me? Never stay still. What are you talking about, brother? I am sniping folks out of nowhere. Thank you, my teammates got my back. I'm glad they got no hack. What's my back? I'm glad they got no hack.
I'm lagging like ever.
You said what?
He's like, give me.
What? Did it? Bro, what the? Oh. It wasn't like the game. It kept switching. It kept switching which gun to use. What? Dude, bro, dude, left. Dude, left. No, he's left. Dude is left on them. I think he got scared. I can't lie, bro. Oh, me, I'm not lying. Bro, there's a whole stash of loot over here. Oh my goodness, brother. I'm sniping whoever on that turret. Oh, me. You said what? What the hell, bro? Oh my goodness, bro, they all about to come. Dang!
Hey, Hawking, I got a big puffer.
Oh, you got a party? What the heck that happened?
Wait, y'all finished the game?
No.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Dang.
For real.
What you trying? Why you trying to give him more food? Yes, I already fed him. Before y'all even came. That's why I put him in the cage. I don't care.
Tipper, you gotta help me. Ow! I swear. Oh, me, bro.
Oh, I still got one
Bro,
balloon.
steal the goddamn sword, bro. I'm killing the dude with the sword. Oh my goodness, dude. You're fighting the dude with the sword, aren't you?
I want to school because it was an early day. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that was just too funny. Dude was retarded. He killed his own son. I'm tired of retarded people. I'm tired of retarded people. They killing
But
me.
I'm lagging like never, ever in my life. No, why my glider?
You got me low as ever though. What more? Hell over.
Hey, give me balloons. Hey, give me balloons. Give me balloons.
Yeah, I got 12. Where the heck are you? Oh, you right there, right there. Right. I literally just saw that too. I can't even lie. That's gay, bro. Let me kill the person before you put the freaking trap down, though. Oh, dude hitting me in the freaking ear.
How many points I got?
Ow! For real! God dang default. You look like freaking Kid Burns and Magoogle and mix together. What's that? Oh, Jamaica got my money? Dang! I need my money! That should have hit him! Peek, dude! Peek! Dial! Peek! I swear to you, big old gorilla mushroom. Go. What the? I am getting kills like no other, bro.
Yo, do that. Save this clip, bro.
Bye.
No!
I'm gonna say that.